Kind of a video in response to, not a response video, to another stupid video by Rose Bushy. But it's this whole subject, this whatever this Frag You Plenty asshole who did the recording of the Stickam conversation from last week. So it's a point worth going over, you know, this whole idea of what democracy is, and how we move to the future, and what has to be done, and what has to be accomplished, and how it's going to be accomplished. And my rhetoric, which people are perverting and bending into some sort of, you know, to satisfy their need to turn me into a fascist, which is such a joke. You know, a fascist to democracy. It's kind of laughable right there. Well, anyway, so the first thing I'll say about, look, what Frag You Plenty did was, well, the first two videos he put up instantaneously almost. I mean, they were up, you know, within, what, an hour or two of the Stickam conversation, maybe an hour, and then he made some sort of comment on the third one that he had to do video editing and I mean it's processing and all this other stuff, and so that was some sort of excuse for why it was late. And well, no, one reason why it was late is because he had to find the portion of the video that he could live with. He didn't want to make it obviously edited, so he wanted to come up with a hunk that he could find that would be the most damaging to me, because he didn't want the whole context. And the whole context would have demonstrated a whole argument, a whole line of preposterous, stupid argument that I had to go through with this asshole. And then that sort of climaxed into this idiotic points. And so anyway, let's go through the idea. As I'm proposing virtual reality, as I've explained, the point of it, the purpose of it, is to minimize the suffering. To me, there's no point in doing it if we're not going to escape the horrendous suffering that exists in nature. There's no accomplishment in it otherwise. If we're going to end up creating is two worlds. Some people living in virtual reality, and then there's this real world again that's living by the same rules it's living by now, which are, for some people to live comfortably, some people have to live uncomfortably. Somebody has to pick up the garbage, somebody has to wipe asses, somebody has to do the shitty jobs. That's the world we've created. And they're not going to be compensated appropriate to how much work they do, or how awful the work is, or how dangerous the work is. They're going to be compensated based on what elitist club they belong to, and what a capitalist system decides is valuable. And that's the bullshit of the system we live in, the world we live in. So there's 6.5 billion people. We've overpopulated, obviously, and the people who are overpopulating are, generally speaking, the people, the have-nots. That's what have-nots do. They overpopulate. And let's say we're not going to fix that problem. That problem is going to exist. We're going to leave that capacity to expand and overpopulate in the equation. Well, yeah, then there's no point in creating virtual reality, because then we're just going to have more people, some of them in an economically rational system where they consume very few resources and are also at low risk for dramatic suffering, and another world where people are still going to suffer, people are still going to be abused and exploited. Same kind of competitive, crazy-ass, loony system. Darwinism still in effect, okay? And a natural world that's going to have the same equation, the same horror out there. 9 out of 10 lion cubs will die before their first birthday. You know, every organism, we can go through the attrition rate and the horror that they experience. And if all that equation is going to stay the same, yeah, then there's no win. There's no victory from my perspective. No point in pursuing virtual reality, no point at all. If it doesn't rescue, then it doesn't accomplish. So the whole premise of my argument is to take consciousness, sentience, out of a high-risk environment, put it in a low-risk environment. And if people can't understand that concept, they can't understand that concept. But that's why I see value in it. I think it's also value. I just say as an added bonus, as added gravy. I think consciousness can do more interesting and fun things. It can be a more creative, more imaginative, more expressive, more diverse. Diversity in this real world has to be limited. You can't be a child molester here. In virtual reality, you can molest all the children you want, because it doesn't matter. That's the reality. Okay, so that's the context of this discussion. And I said through the context of that discussion that there's a point where a decision will have to be made. If you're going to go to virtual reality, there's no way you can just sit there and say, yeah, but we'll leave all the problems that exist in this other world where sentience exists in. We're just going to leave those problems exist. That would be as stupid as a modern man going into some cannibalistic, horrible tribe of men, living on some island somewhere. We visit some island and we see people living in just horror. I mean, the women are all slaves, and the people are just caught up in a bunch of mumbo jumbo and superstition and nonsense, and they're brutalizing each other and ripping each other's ears off and bashing holes in each other's heads and saying, yeah, we'll just leave them like that. We'll just say that it would be okay. I wouldn't mind if my child was raised by that tribe. Of course we would mind. Of course we would say, no, we're going to save those people from their ignorance. We're going to save them from their stupidity. We wouldn't let them sit there and say they're raping their daughters and raping, and all kinds of just stupid, ignorant, dumb behaviors taking place that's causing those people to live horrible lives. Virgins thrown into volcanoes and the whole bullshit. There's no way we would just sit back and say, yes, let's let that exist. Let's just leave it alone. It would be as stupid as saying a society would have no right to pass a law saying that people can't lock their daughters in their cellar for 30 years if they feel like it. Of course we can pass such laws, and we're not fascist if we pass such a law. We're not imposing or violating some sort of human decency by making such a judgment. What made fascism, especially under Hitler, evil was that it was completely based on irrational bigotry. It was based on judging people as classes. Okay, that was the crime. The crime wasn't, they weren't being judged by their character. They were being their individuality as well as any rational notion of judgment was eliminated from the equation. That's what made it evil. So it's no, and there's no point of having the discussion in any other context. All we have, the best choice is democracy. And yes, that'll lead to majority rule. And it's stupid, though, to sit there and say our Constitution preserves us from that or protects us from that, because it doesn't. Because the same majority is going to end up electing all three branches of government, especially in the democracies we have, because of the way they're built, because of this stupid geographic bias and the fact that there's a whole bunch of winner-take-all elections for representative in a geographically limited voting realm. And so of course diversity is not reflected. If you are not a segregated minority, you will have no representation in government. That's just a fact. You must be geographically segregated to have real hope for representation. And that's a great flaw in our democracies. But a straightforward direct democracy would be just as imbecilic, because people don't pay attention, people don't become informed, and we're better off having representatives than direct democracy, because if you have direct democracy, everybody will vote for a simplistic answer, because that's all they want is a simple solution. And you have to have people that are more seriously minded than that. You have to have representatives who are willing to understand the entire context, to do some reading, to be informed, to make judgments about what should or shouldn't be done. Because we know the average person just isn't going to do the legwork, so to speak, to rationally exercise their franchise, so to speak.
Anyway, I mean, the video Pino did was just stupid. It's not, democracy can never be fascism, because at least it is a majority. At least it's grasping some kind of authority and integrity in making a decision. And obviously, an elitist fascist ideology making decisions can't be trusted. I mean, here you might have a good dictator, but the odds are you're going to have a bad dictator, and the risk outweighs the reward. The odds of somebody making doing horrible things through dictatorship is that risk is too high for the occasional that you might get the right guy doing the dictating. So whatever, all we have is democracy. It's the only choice. And the only question to be asked is well, what measure of consensus do you need to do certain things? And I'd certainly agree that to do certain things you might need a 60% majority or a 70% majority. But the majority's got to have that power, because otherwise it's anarchy. Otherwise you're just saying, well, we can impose nothing on anybody, and we need to impose things on people. The only way we're going to stop population growth in the world is to tell people they can't have babies who want to have babies. We're going to have to suppress their want, their desire, their wish. That's just a fact, and that's a reality we're going to have to live with. And we're not going to be tyrants when that day comes, because we're going to make that determination. We're just going to be practical people who give a damn about saving human beings great hardship and unpleasantness. We're in a horrible mess, and the only way out of it is responsible behavior, and that's going to have to be imposed on some people. And that's just a fact. That's a circumstantial fact of our existence. Well, anyway, so the bottom line is there is no future, in my opinion, in the human race without it becoming rational, and it's going to have to fix some problems. Because if it doesn't fix them, it's unsustainable the way it is. Unsustainable. You understand that fucking word? We won't be able to sustain civilization. So if we're going to return to being baboons again, then yes, I'm one of those people that says I'd rather just say the hell with it. I don't want to invest in that future. If you want to live in it, well, that might be your choice. I wouldn't want to live in it, and I would do everything I could to prevent it.